Have you ever heard of a man who hijacked a plane, collected a fortune in ransom, not into hiding, not caught by police, but literally vanished midair? This isn't a movie plot. It's the true, baffling story of D.B. Cooper. The day before Thanksgiving in 1971, a man who bought his ticket under the name Dan Cooper boarded a Northwest Orient Airlines flight from Portland to Seattle. He was in his mid-40s, dressed in a dark business suit with a black tie. He looked like any other businessman on a routine flight. He ordered a bourbon and soda and seemed perfectly calm. But shortly after takeoff, as the plane climbed through the clouds, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. Thinking it was just another passenger's phone number, she slipped it into her pocket without looking. But Cooper leaned closer and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Florence's blood ran cold. She discreetly read the note. It confirmed his threat, stating he had a bomb in his briefcase and demanded her to sit with him. When she sat down, he calmly opened his briefcase just enough for her to see a mess of wires and red sticks. It looked like dynamite. He then dictated his demands: $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane upon arrival. The flight crew immediately alerted authorities on the ground. The airline's president, wanting to avoid any harm to the passengers, ordered full cooperation. While the FBI and the airline scrambled to gather the ransom money and parachutes, the plane circled Puget Sound for nearly 2 hours. To the other 36 passengers on board, this was just a mechanical delay. They had no idea they were in the middle of a high-stakes hijacking. Cooper remained calm the entire time, even ordering and paying for a second bourbon. He was described as polite and well-spoken, not at all like the violent criminals people imagined. Finally, at 5:39 p.m., the plane landed at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The authorities had the cash and parachutes ready. The money, all 10,000 individual $20 bills, had been microfilmed by the FBI for later identification. Once the delivery was complete, Cooper kept his word. He allowed all the passengers and 2 of the flight attendants, including Florence, to leave the plane. He was now alone with the pilot, co-pilot, a flight engineer, and 1 remaining flight attendant, Tina Mucklow. While the plane was being refueled, Cooper outlined his new flight plan to the cockpit crew. He wanted them to fly to Mexico City at a low altitude of 10,000 feet and a slow airspeed of about 170 miles per hour. He was very specific about the technical details, telling them to keep the landing gear down and the wing flaps at 15 degrees. This level of knowledge suggested he had some familiarity with aviation. The pilots explained that a flight to Mexico City wasn't possible without refueling again, so they agreed on a shorter trip to Reno, Nevada. At around 7:40 p.m., the Boeing 727 took off again, heading south into a dark and stormy night. Only 4 crew members and D.B. Cooper were on board. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper told Tina Mucklow, the last flight attendant, to go into the cockpit and stay there with the door closed. That was the last time anyone ever saw him. Around 8 p.m., a warning light flashed in the cockpit, indicating that the aft air stair, the retractable staircase at the back of the plane, had been opened. The crew tried to ask Cooper about it over the intercom, but he didn't respond. The plane was flying through a heavy thunderstorm over the rugged, forested wilderness of southwestern Washington. The pressure in the cabin dropped. Then, at approximately 8:13 p.m., the crew felt a sudden change in air pressure, a slight upward movement of the tail section. D.B. Cooper, with his $200,000 strapped to his body, had jumped from the back of a commercial airliner into the freezing, rain-swept darkness, somewhere between Seattle and Reno. When the plane landed safely in Reno, a couple of hours later, authorities swarmed the aircraft. All they found was Cooper's black tie, a tie clip, and 2 of the 4 parachutes he had demanded. He had left them behind. He had chosen to jump with the other 2. The search began immediately. The FBI, along with the military, conducted one of the most extensive and expensive manhunts in U.S. history. They scoured the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest on foot and by helicopter. They searched for a body, a parachute, or any trace of the money, but they found nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was as if D.B. Cooper had been swallowed by the night sky. Did he survive the jump? Experts were, and still are, divided. The conditions were treacherous. He jumped at night into a thunderstorm over mountainous terrain with freezing temperatures. He was wearing a business suit, not proper skydiving gear. The parachute he likely used was a military-issue NB-8, which was not designed for a high-speed jump from a jet. Most experts believed he couldn't possibly have survived the landing. But without a body, no one could be sure. For years, the case went cold. The FBI investigated thousands of suspects, but could never definitively identify the man who called himself Dan Cooper. The name D.B. Cooper, by the way, was a media mistake. A reporter misheard the name, and it stuck, forever cementing the hijacker's identity in popular culture. Then, in 1980, 9 years after the hijacking, a little boy named Brian Ingram was on a family vacation, digging in the sand on the banks of the Columbia River near Tennebar, Washington. He uncovered a rotting bundle of cash. It was 3 packets of $20 bills, still bound by rubber bands. The FBI was called in, and they confirmed the serial numbers. It was part of D.B. Cooper's ransom money. A total of $5,800 was found. This discovery only deepened the mystery. The money was found about 20 miles away from the estimated jump zone. How did it get there? Did Cooper land nearby and lose some of it? Did he bury it and intend to come back for it later? Or did the money simply wash down the river over the years? Scientists analyzed the sediment on the bills and suggested they had been deposited there naturally, but the exact timeline remains unclear. Even with this clue, the trail went cold again. No other trace of Cooper or the remaining $194,000 has ever been found. Over the decades, the legend of D.B. Cooper grew. He became a folk hero to some, a symbol of rebellion against the system, the guy who beat the odds and got away with it. Books were written, documentaries were made, and countless theories emerged. Was he a disgruntled veteran with parachute training? Or just an ordinary man who planned an extraordinary crime? The FBI officially closed the active investigation in 2016 after 45 years of dead ends. The D.B. Cooper case remains the only unsolved air piracy case in American history. The evidence file is over 60 volumes long. Did he perish in the unforgiving wilderness of the Pacific Northwest that night, his bones scattered and lost to time? Or did he somehow survive, start a new life with a new identity, and live out his days with his secret? We will likely never know for sure. And perhaps that's what makes the story of D.B. Cooper so enduring, the perfect, unsolvable mystery. What do you think happened to him? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.